were the biggest contributors.
And the Independent Electoral Commission says it has improved its voter management devices ahead of this weekend's voter registration. The Commission briefed the National Assembly's Home Affairs Committee today on its state of readiness. Online voter registration for people living abroad has also been finalized. Baba Londense has the details.
The IEC briefed the Home Affairs Committee today about its readiness for what is expected to be a busy registration weekend. Deputy CEO Masego Sheburi says even those living abroad will find it easier to register.
We have finalized our online voter registration capability to enable South Africans abroad to register online and so that they can be included on the segments of the voters' roll for missions in which they wish to vote.
Sheburi says their new voter management devices will also help them work quicker come the weekend when scanning IDs. The IEC says there will be another registration weekend next year at a date yet to be determined. Baba Londense, Eyewitness News.
And while the inclement weather across Gauteng is set to ease this evening, Joburg Emergency Service officials are keeping a close eye on several areas in the province. Last night, Midrand and surrounding neighborhoods were pounded by large hailstones, damaging cars, homes and even businesses. A cloudy start for Gauteng tomorrow, otherwise partly cloudy for the rest of the day. Joburg dropping to an overnight low of 12 degrees, peaking at 21. Pretoria 13 and 24. Vereeniging 13, peaking at a high of 22. Lerato Huffela, Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News on 947. For more, click ewn.co.za.
#MSW. You may begin to feel anxious or excited.
Honest, deliberate, engaging, uncensored.
High dosage administration can cause adverse reactions.
And most importantly, independent in mind and execution.
This is a normal response. Are you ready?
Marawa Sports Worldwide.
Let's relive this moment.
The African Football League today we want to show the people in Africa, we want to show the people in the world that football in Africa is as good as football and is amongst the best in the world.
The African public have already won. The fans of football, you are the winners.
Yeah, President of FIFA watching every move.
Not a happy weekend for me. Losing to Pirates on Saturday. Sundowns winning another trophy, which they will rub into our faces, Kaizer Chiefs supporters. So it was not a good weekend. Go see PE.
Dennis Onyango, the former Uganda Cranes captain, he's built a six-pack just from lifting trophies.
Good evening, Rob.
You're such a polite human being, man.
You start with the greeting. It's very, very important because I need to know how you feel.
How I feel?
Yeah, it's been a long time. How do you feel?
Should we swap roles? Should I go sit there? You can run this ship here, boss.
I'll only count the trophies when I'm done with football.
Robert Marawa, live on 947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live.
#MSW.
Got a big interview coming up later on tonight on #MSW Marawa Sports Worldwide. If you know the name David Elleray, then you'll simply know exactly who it is that I'm talking about. And it's such a pleasure, such an honor for us to be able to just rub shoulders with him, have a conversation with him because of the influence that he has in the world of football and refereeing more especially. So any questions that you do have, I might suggest you send those WhatsApp voice notes nice and early. 060-708-0484, 060-708-0484. Well, I guess we'll chat anything from VAR to the current state of refereeing, not just here in South Africa, but around the world. What are the issues you've picked up? What can be improved on? So it's that and a whole lot more. But firstly, man, it's always such a heartwarming story. And I've picked up, man, the trends through the years, and especially where Dis-Chem is concerned, touches the hearts of South Africans. And here, it's no different. And especially in the wake of the Springboks' historic Rugby World Cup victory. I mean, South Africa witnessed a remarkable surge in that positive energy that we had all been missing. You know, that unity, it was there. That triumphant moment led by the indomitable Siya Kolisi and his entire team. has not only united the nation, but also sparking a wave of goodwill as well as generosity. So the Dis-Chem CEO, Roy Marawa, was so moved by the transformation in South Africa's collective spirit following the Springboks' resounding success that he penned a heartfelt letter. Sent a letter to Sia, as well as the boys, and in that letter, he celebrated the significant shift, the entire shift in momentum that was brought about by the Springboks' fourth Rugby World Cup win. And he went on to make a remarkable pledge. Listen to this, 12 million rand, with 1 million rand for every point scored in the final match to address the challenges that have been faced by the people of South Africa. They've committed to funding one sustainable and measurable project each month, totaling 1 million rand per project over the course of 12 months. This is incredible. I want to find out a little bit more, though, because the CEO himself is on the line, Dis-Chem CEO. Roy Marawa joining us right here on hashtag MSW. Roy, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Robert.
Good to have you on the line. And just tell me from a human perspective, before we delve into what all of this means, what is your feeling about the success, though, of the Springboks, the rugby performances all round?
So, for me, and it came across in the letter that I wrote to Sia and the team, I think it was just a representation of a much-needed momentum shift in South Africa. And I think a lot has been said about how it unifies us as a nation. But I think from my perspective, and certainly the way that it represented for me, it also just brought out the very best in South African people. And I think you spoke about it earlier in the introduction. It just encourages a huge amount of goodwill. So as much as it was incredible to see them win, the momentum shift and the change in momentum, which was very much needed by South Africa, considering some of the challenges that we face, and just the goodness that it brings out, the positivity that it brings out in people, I think is so good for our country, and certainly good for our country going forward.
Yeah, tell me about the financial pledge, though, linking that to the Rugby World Cup final match as outlined in that letter that you speak about now.
Sure. So, we obviously do a lot of work through our foundation, and initially when I experienced that very personal moment, I wanted to do something on top of. So this would be on top of, and it's really focused predominantly what some of the most important challenges that South Africa face. It's also, it's very clinical in terms of its sustainability. So we've committed to 1 million rand a project delivered over 12 months. Because I think it's always this initial kind of surge is always anticipated up front, and then it kind of loses momentum. And we really wanted to ensure the sustainability of the momentum. So it is sustainable. It's going to start on the 15th of December, which in itself is a public holiday celebrating the victory. And we will move every single month. We'll deliver a specific project. We're encouraging our staff to contribute and vote on some of the projects, and we're putting an ESG framework on it. So it's really, really exciting for us as a brand, and we hope that it encourages other goodwill from other corporates in South Africa, or just genuine goodwill from just South African people.
Roy, I'm looking at the message of the 12 million rand, the pledge. What does that convey about Dis-Chem's commitment, though, to the community at large?
So, we've always been committed to the community. The community is effectively our customer base and our patient base. Our brand is centered around the delivery of healthcare, reducing healthcare costs to increase access. But at the same time, we have a corporate responsibility, and we need to keep South Africa healthy as a brand. We've repositioned the brand to kind of talk about being South Africa's healthcare destination, better health starting here at Dis-Chem. And it's all centered around motivating people and encouraging them to support their own healthy lifestyles. And for that to happen, you need a healthy country. And I think that's, at the core of the message, at the core of the gesture, I guess, at the core of the sponsorship is exactly that.
Yeah. Just thinking about the different mechanisms, though, that come into play, and what have been those mechanisms that have been put in place, though, to decide which of these specific community projects or recipients will benefit from this financial pledge?
Yeah, so I think it's important to have a framework to kind of vet some of the ideas that come from our staff. So obviously we would have an ESG framework that deals with what are the core issues of South Africa. So that would be anything from education, food security, to health, to gender-based violence. So there would be issues that we're looking to tackle. We then go and partner with some of the foundations that are pointed directly at those issues. and deliver, whether it's community-based care, or whether it's a wider ranging project that is centered through one of these foundations. We deliver those projects once a month. We're focusing now on preparing it for the first one on the 15th of December. We're going through the vetting process now. We're encouraging ideas from our staff. And in time, we will also talk to the nature of the project that we deliver on the 15th of September and the cyclical nature thereafter.
Yeah, you talk about vetting, it almost leads me to what I was going to ask you next, because we all want the level of transparency and accountability. And how will Dis-Chem ensure this in delivering the pledged amount to the identified community projects as well as its recipients?
Sure. So, we'll have an external provider kind of vet the process. I think it gives credibility and transparency to the process. We'll also utilize some of the independent executives or non-executives that support our board. I think from our perspective, it will render in the way that we go through the project monthly. So I think we'll use other credible sources to kind of vet the process to ensure the transparency and ensure that we are committing to this cause and to this process.
Expansion is the name of the game, Roy. And as I said, as we were starting the show, that having followed Dis-Chem, all the initiatives, everything that you've done, and especially within the Prime Media House family here, we've always gotten to know that at the end of the day, it's the community that becomes the winner. Any plans to replicate or expand similar initiatives in the future, either tied to sporting events or even through other creative mechanisms?
So I think the foundation itself was created to do exactly that. I think what inspired myself and the brand is slightly different in this instance because it's additional funding outside of that. And it's given us a new sense of purpose. And I think, we don't have answers to replicate now, but I think it does. Our staff is incredibly inspired to participate in this. It's created a huge amount of unity within our own staff, within our own Dis-Chem community, and it's certainly not going to be the last thing that we do. We're actually quite encouraged to see whether our cricketers do the same. We'd love to contribute to that cause as well. I think that would be another kind of goodwill gesture and another motivating moment. So, we wish them the best as well as they go through the semi-final process and hopefully to the finals. And 2 victories in 1 year would be incredible.
I think that's stuff we all dream of, Roy. I think in our lifetime we haven't seen anything like this. We've been surrounded by so many high-level activities, from the women playing the netball, the women from a cricket World Cup perspective. We've seen it here. It's been the rugby and now the cricket, and it's the business end of all of it. I don't know if you've ever come across this ever. I think for me, it's the first time that South Africa stands on the threshold of something really, really big.
It is. It's almost unbelievable, but in a way, it almost seems right. So, we can only hope that they deliver the win. It's almost meant to be right. So we're quite excited about it, and I hope it does transpire that way.
Yeah, just lastly though, Roy, how do you anticipate this unique pledge impacting Dis-Chem's reputation? Also, when you look at relationships with both customers and the broader public?
I hope it's perceived well. I think it is very much a genuine cause. I think it talks to the status of our brand. We're a national brand. We want to talk to South Africa at large. We want to support South Africa at large. We want to contribute to South Africa at large. And at the core of the pledge is exactly that. I think what we've utilized is the goodwill and the positivity that came from the win. And we want to translate it into doing good. And I think it's so important for South Africa. I think in many instances, a lot of our problems we can solve ourselves. We're very focused, we're very passionate, we're very stubborn individuals, and that was really represented by the team. And if we want to solve problems, we're more than capable. So hopefully we're encouraging a lot of that.
I love that stubborn part because it's part of the success, Roy. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on the show. That's the Dis-Chem CEO joining us right here on hashtag MSW Marawa Sports Worldwide. Dis-Chem CEO Roy Morais. Stick around because after this break, I'll be looking forward to this as well. And again, guys, well done. Dis-Chem, whatever you do, whatever you touch, let's change lives one step at a time. And I know that they've been doing it for a while. And one person who also, hopefully, by the end of the show at 7 o'clock would have changed your perspective about referees. Stop throwing objects at television in frustration of what you're seeing. It's the one and only David Elleray is my guest here tonight.
Previously on Marawa Sports Worldwide.
You either win with us or you watch us win.
Sikhumbuzo's here with me in studio. We've also got Coach Rulani Mkwena. We've got Neo Mayema here as well. Dennis Onyango, a man who probably when he retires from football will have a career in broadcasting or radio because he's got a voice for it, eh? Neo Mayema. But here you are now, an African champion of a very brand new tournament.
And to be honest, the coach told us that we need to feel when we actually lost out onto the two cups. But this one is also to feel it, when we won it. So it's more of feeling it, embracing the good things that happens to us, and one trophy at a time. And this is the beginning of a very good season for us.
You either win with us or you watch us win.
#MSW. #MSW.
Right, before we hit the break, I just thought it's proper that we introduce our guest for tonight for the big interview. I'm not sure if you'll agree with some of the things that I'll say in introducing him because, when we just overawed with the kind of human being that he is, I mean, an all-powerful overlord in English refereeing, and not too many have survived as long as David Elleray has done. None provoke such strong feelings in the referee fraternity as he's done. And if you've watched football back in the earlier days, you'll never forget just what kind of nonsense whistleblowers go through. And here, you had a no-nonsense referee all round. And there are many, many reasons why I say that. I mean, who would ever forget when he sent off Roy Keane for that infamous tackle on Alf Inge Haaland? The Kent-born official sending that abrasive Irishman off 4 times. Yeah, so he sent Roy Keane off 4 times. And he feared that the accusations of a vendetta against Manchester United after a bust-up, 2 years earlier following his controversial dismissal of Dennis Irwin at Anfield, if you remember that. There was a whole charge down that tunnel. Sound like Ferguson. I don't even know what he said to him. No doubt the highest profile British football referee in the world's game until his retirement in 2003. Highly entertaining speaker. David has put some world-class players and managers in their place. I'll tell you about so many other things. Ryan Giggs, you name it. But right now, though, technical director at the International Football Association Board, IFAB as they call it, David joins me in studio. Good to see you again after a couple of years, David. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Robert. Very nice to be here, although it's not so comfortable being an Englishman in South Africa at the moment with all your great success in sport, but it's really nice to see the country doing so well.
Not as bad as New Zealand, though, because it looked like at a certain stage, even sheep shearing, we were beating New Zealand, never mind rugby or cricket.
Yeah, no, you're phenomenal at the moment, phenomenal. Apart from perhaps your national football team, so that's the area you've got to get going. So let's start off with a battle.
We're trying to sharpen those spears right now, David, because we got a brand new coach in Hugo Broos. So he had a press conference today, trying to get us to a World Cup because since 2010 we failed dismally. Had we not been hosting the World Cup in 2010, we would have not smelt the word World Cup. So it's all of those things that I think South Africa really needs to panel beat. We can't be great at cricket, great at rugby, and then comes the majority sport in the country, and we're just failing dismally.
Yeah.
I think that's the crazy part. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I just thought before we go for the break, let's get the greetings over because when we come back, I don't even know where to start. There's so many things we need to unpack, but it's fertile ground because the area of refereeing is so topical right now globally that it's best to begin that conversation right here.
#MSW live now on 947 Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live at the same time. #MSW.
Lotto Star's Real Rush Game Suite is packed with spinning reels and wild multipliers. Are you ready to embark on a thrilling adventure where your fortune could change with a spin of the reels on our Habanero, Ruby or Buffet games? You could win supersized payouts of up to 20 million rand on our Real Rush games instantly. Lotto Star, your world of live games.
Lotto Star is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No under 18s. National Responsible Gambling Program. 0800 006 008. T's and C's apply. All games are fixed odds betting events.
We picked the better path. Out with the blue and in with the open view. Extra drama.
Extra laughs.
Extra romance.
Extra action?
They've got that too, babes. All you need to do is pick the better box.
Pick the better box.
And make the better choice.
With a once-off payment, break out of your current expensive, boring box and get into ours. Open View. It's for everyone.
Work. Just a little bit longer. In a few months, we'll be sipping something sweet, chit-chatting by the beachfront. Until then, there's plenty midnight oil to burn and no time to miss the mark. We can't afford to cut corners. We're doing this rat race by the book because nothing's on the back burner when mountains need moving or gas, no...
Breaks are important. Take the Renault summer break and get a payment holiday of up to 6 months. Drive now and pay later when you purchase a new Renault Clio or Renault Kaizer Turbo. Book a test drive today at renault.co.za. Offer valid for this month only. T's and C's apply.
There are some things you just never do when you're naked, like paperwork and phoning call centers and negotiating with the guy from the call center for a lower insurance premium. Never do admin or listen to on-hold music when you're naked. All the stuff you really don't like about old-school insurance, when you're naked, you just don't do it. See, when you're naked, you do insurance online. Get a car insurance quote in seconds, and if you like the price, sign up instantly. Get instant online insurance. Get naked.
Naked Financial Technology is an authorized FSP.
Come on, baby. What's wrong?
Well, you don't come around to see me in the week. You never get the chance to call me on the phone, but come Friday night...
Baby, it's Tuesday afternoon.
Every day feels like a Friday when you could win fuel for a year worth 35,000 Rand anytime you fill up with 600 Rand or more at Engen. Get that Friday feeling any day of the week. Terms and conditions apply. Promotion ends 31st December. Engen, with us, you are number one.
It's Big Deal Wednesday at Food Lovers Market. Buy a 500-gram punnet of new season white seedless grapes and a punnet of nectarines for only 59 Rand. And get a blueberry punnet absolutely free. That's a white seedless grape punnet and a nectarine punnet for 59 Rand and a blueberry punnet free. And enjoy Camille Hurt Boerewors for just 79.99 per kilo. Valid this Wednesday only at all inland Food Lovers Market stores. The best in fresh, guaranteed.
Previously on Marawa Sports Worldwide.
Coach Rolani, my oh my. Tell me about the drive.
I was listening to We Are the Champions by the Queen. There's ups, there's downs, there's tears, there's joys and laughters.
Let's go with line by line and see, because this might be intentional. This really might be... I've paid my dues. Time after time. I've done my sentence. But committed no crime. And bad mistakes? I've made a few. I've had my share of sand kicked in my face. But I've come through. And it leads you to being a champion.
Embrace failure because that's part of paying your dues. Embrace making mistakes because that's part of your growth.
#MSW.
#MSW. Well, he is a teacher and he emphasizes that I call you David Elleray. This is Daniel Bennett. And I can't argue with teachers because he's a professional person who's a professional teacher. So should I switch over? Should I call you what I've never called you before, David?
Call me whatever you want. I'm sure you will.
Well, there you have it, Daniel Bennett. Getting to observe South African football, and you were there. You were at the F&B Stadium over the weekend. Soweto Derby, the biggest of its kind when it comes to SA football. And I'm sure, like you always do, your eyes firmly focused on how the men in the middle operate, function. What did you make of that game, the 90 minutes that you observed?
Well, it's very interesting because, of course, it's a big, big game, and contrary to popular belief, referees like to finish a game with nobody talking about them, and that was really the case on Saturday. You had a younger referee, I think a real talent for the future, and at the end of the game, nobody was really discussing anything. There were possible 2 incidents. Some of the Pirates fans were concerned about 1 or 2 incidents. There was a debate about was the goal offside or not, when it very clearly wasn't. And then the referee had a very big decision to make in the first minute with a late, lazy forwards tackle. And people saying, well, it could have been a red card. The great thing was he gave a yellow. He was strong. Nobody was discussing it afterwards. If he'd given a red, he could have, in a way, really influenced the game. So that was a referee that showed a great deal of empathy for the game, and that's what we want from our referees, to understand the law, but have a, what does football expect? What does football want? What's the spirit of football? And it's the spirit of the laws which are often as important as the precise letter of the law.
No, that's an important thing that I can't miss. When you talk about the spirit of the law, the spirit of the game, there is nothing, firstly, wrong in giving a red card in the first minute of a game.
No, and if it deserves a red card, it deserves a red card. But if you look at that tackle, it was a forwards tackle, and they often say forwards commit lazy tackles. His foot actually went in to try and block the ball rather than him going in to tackle for the ball. And as he lifted his foot, the defender's foot came up and there was a collision, caused, of course, by the attacker. But there was no malice there. There was no brutality. There was nothing that took it into the realm of serious foul play. It was a collision. It was lazy. But interestingly, and we'll talk about VAR later, if you took a still of the moment of impact, it was high up on the shin, a still would say that's a clear red card. And that's where you need to see the entire flow of the picture and see little intensity, trying to block the ball, coming together. If that contact had been made with the defender's foot on the ground, that would have been more serious, because when the foot's on the ground, there's a bigger chance of the leg breaking there. But when the leg is hanging there, following through from kicking the ball, it was the correct decision from the referee, probably assisted by his assistant referee, and got it right. Nobody spoke about it. And that's the great thing from the derby. It wasn't the greatest match of Soweto derbies, but nobody talking about the referee. That's a perfect referee's afternoon. Nobody knows you were there.
Yeah, but I agree. I think just in terms of the quality, it wasn't one that we'll talk about for years to come. It was a football game. A result was accomplished, and Pirates walk away the victors and the bragging rights and the 3 points, etc. The spirit of the game, I go back to that again, because sometimes there's been a debate to say, are referees supposed to referee the occasion? You know, we've had some very brave referees here in South Africa who have not really cared whether it is a Soweto Derby, but if a decision has to be taken, it has to be taken. How much of that monitoring that occasion versus, as you say, the severity, if it's deserving, then you get it, plays a hand to say, maybe let me not spoil this encounter so early on in the game?
I think referees have got to be brave, and what we always say is a red card is a red card is a red card, first minute, last minute. A yellow card there's a degree more flexibility there, and you need to feel the atmosphere, you need to feel the need of the game, and referees generally don't like giving yellow cards too early on, because it can set a standard which then inevitably results in 5, 6, 7 yellow cards, a second yellow card. And refereeing is a little bit like the police, and we say in the UK that the police are there by the consent of the people, which means that in a way the people have to ultimately respect the police to follow what they want the police to do. And refereeing's a little bit the same. And if referees have football at least understanding what they're trying to do and working for football rather than against football, which some people think, it's the referees with the empathy, with the feeling for the game, that apply the laws in a sensible way for the benefit of the game and to protect the players, that's important. And we often say, if you come off the field with 5 yellow cards and they're all for kicking the ball away, saying 1 or 2 bad words to the referee, and you've missed the worst foul of the game, and that didn't get a card, you won't have the respect. And it's much better to be known as a referee who is strong on the physical and manages the technical, because I think that's what football people want all around the world.
With that in mind, let me bring in something that was mentioned, which is obviously seen around the world as being hugely controversial, that of time wasting. Because if I'm not mistaken, that is what led to the sending off of Irwin in that game. And people, I think today, when you look at referees, yes, they still referee very, very stringently on that. But I don't know when it kicks in, at what stage, how many seconds they allow for that to happen. But do you believe, though, that given your experience and what it caused back then as far as erections were concerned, is that still applicable? Do we see it being applied in today's game?
Yes, and in fact, there's been quite a move within IFAB, within Europe, within the Premier League, to deal much more strongly with time wasting. And there are 2 elements to time wasting. People concentrate on the time lost, but often it's not the time lost that's the purpose. It's actually to disrupt the tempo and the emotion of the game. So what you'll find is one team's doing very well, the other team are under pressure. So they'll try and slow the game down. They'll commit small fouls. They'll kick the ball away. They'll go down with injuries to disrupt the tempo. And it's the tempo disruption which we need to deal with. And the Premier League are dealing with it very strongly this season. You'll see more yellow cards for stopping free kicks, kicking the ball away. And with the Irwin one, it wasn't so much the fact that he kicked the ball half the length of the field to waste time. He did it to stop Liverpool taking a quick throw-in in an attacking position. So it was as much tactical as time-related. And we're very keen in football at the moment that, as you'll see with all this increased additional amount of time, that people want to see more football. And if you're going to a match which is 90 minutes and the ball is only in play for 45, 46, 47, you're being shortchanged. And so the desire is, let's try and get the ball up in play for about 60 plus minutes. Stoppages are part of the game, but they should be short. And people want to see football being played.
My worst conversations are about refereeing because they're the shortest. We need about 5 hours to discuss refereeing issues. But what we spoke about, even off air, and I said, David, I haven't seen football games in a long time that are stretching almost as if you're in extra time. So you find that there's 15 minutes that's added on, 12 minutes that's added on, and you're thinking, where's this come from? And you had a very clear explanation of the possibilities of that added time. Maybe share that with the listeners right now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what we discovered was that a lot of time was being lost by goal celebrations, which are part of the game and we don't want to stop them because they're part of the emotion. So, as an example, Liverpool played Real Madrid last season in a Champions League game, and in the first leg, it was 4-2 to, if I remember correctly, to Real Madrid at Anfield. 7 minutes were taken up with goal celebrations. And that was time lost.
Yeah.
Now, if that time is added on at the end of the game, or the end of the half, as is happening now, an extra 7 minutes, what was 4-2 could easily become 5-2, and therefore the second leg is almost irrelevant, or 4-3, in which case the second leg is wide open. So the teams, the players, the spectators have a right to the referee compensating for unfair or lengthy stoppages. We don't want a stop-start clock for every throw-in, every free kick or whatever. But sometimes there are games. There was a Champions League game last season where 12 minutes of the game were taken up with free kicks. 8 minutes were taken up with goal kicks.
So how do you circumvent that? How do you bypass that? Because free kicks are part of the game. It's just how quickly or when people decide or, when the line is drawn. So all of those things are part of the game. The new game having to give an instruction of the ball needs to be placed here, the wall needs to be placed here, etc. By that time, you've eaten away over a minute plus.
Yeah, and some of those you do need to speed up. And I think that referees are beginning to get a bit stronger even on goal kicks. And it depends on the time of the game. One of the other areas we're looking at this year is goalkeepers holding the ball for more than 6 seconds. And if you watch a typical football match, next football match you go to, count when the goalkeeper has the ball.
It's more than 6 seconds.
Or it's only 2 or 3, depending whether the goalkeeper wants to create a quick attack or not. So we are looking at ways of saying, how can we get referees to be stronger when the goalkeeper's holding the ball there for 10, 15, even 20 seconds. So
I saw that this past weekend, David, where, again, if the team has an advantage, the goalkeeper gets the ball, he'll get it, he knows he's got the time, and then he'll lie down on top of the ball. Yep. So that's eating away. And I'm thinking, but that's already 4 seconds. Then he's going to get up, that's another 2 seconds, but he never gets blown for the 6-second rule.
No, and one of the problems is that if you blow for breaking the 6 seconds, it's an indirect free kick about 6-7 meters from the goal line, which is impossible then. All the defenders have to be back on the goal line between the goalposts. It's impossible to manage. Some people feel that it's actually too strong a punishment because there's quite a big chance of scoring from an indirect free kick. So there's all sorts of reasons why it isn't being dealt with. And what we've got to do is to look at the law and say, is there a way in which we can encourage the referees to be stronger? And like all punishments, the most important thing about a punishment is that it's a deterrent to stop people being punished. So can we find a way in which the goalkeepers won't risk being penalised for more than 6 seconds? And we've got some interesting ideas which we'll keep under wraps at the moment for our next discussion. But these are areas we're looking at because we want the game to flow. People like the flow of the game. In the Premier League, for example, at the moment, they're not allowing players to be treated on the field unless they're seriously injured. And what is happening is if a player requires treatment, they have to go off and then they stay off for a period of time to be properly assessed, because this nonsense of them lying down, the trainer coming on, they go to the touchline and immediately come back on, people are frustrated with. So the amount of time being lost for so-called injuries in the Premier League is reducing and reducing, because the players have said to us, if one of our team pretends they're injured and has to go off and we're down to 10 men and score a goal, we're going to give him a hard time, not the referee. So it's becoming self-regulating. So this area of time we're working at hard, but we realise that there are natural stoppages in the game. And even the fittest players, even the fittest referees also need a bit of a break during the game.
Yeah. And I mean, you talked back then, I think it was about 2 years ago, when the offside review was under review, and it was a case of, are people overstressing offside? And you said, and I quoted at the time, it's about giving more and more benefit to the attacker. Are we still there right now, David? I mean, from what we're seeing on television, from what we're seeing in the games, is that still the case?
No, and I think it's one of the disadvantages, a little bit of technology, because pre-technology, and this is not VAR, this is media technology, because television companies were drawing offside lines way before VAR. Until we had that technology, the assistant referees always gave the benefit of the doubt to the attacker.
Yeah.
Once you start drawing lines, there's no benefit of the doubt because it's factual. And people say, well, okay, does 1 centimetre offside, 2 centimetres offside? Well, it's factual. It's like the goalkeeper, 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres off the goal line. When you have a factual decision, there's always going to be a 1 centimetre difference. So if you say, okay, we'll have a tolerance of 3 centimetres, so you're onside for 3, but you're offside for 4, it's still a 1 centimetre difference. And so what we've got to look at is, are there ways in which we can amend the law, develop the law to return a bit of the benefit of the doubt to the attacker, because technology in a way has taken that away. Whilst it remained a bit subjective from the assistant, the attacker's benefited. But it's fair to say with VAR, as many goals are allowed which would have been disallowed as are disallowed having been allowed. So technology is helping, but it's in this area it's perhaps taken things back just a little bit.
For me, it's become too forensic. Like you're saying, so many centimeters, your kneecap is just a little bit longer, so it falls into that gap, so we rule you offside, and those lines are drawn and amplified and magnified and so on. The game was not about that. And aren't you finding it frustrating now to see also the different applications? I use EPL and I see it being used in La Liga, for example. La Liga decisions are taken differently from my observations to what I see the constant debates within the EPL. I don't know if I'm right or wrong in my observations, but just watching football across the spectrum, you find that.
Yeah, I think the problem is that football doesn't quite know what it wants. So if you take VAR, for example, football is saying we don't want VAR to interfere very much. We only want it for the clear and obvious errors, which is what we started it for. Yeah. But then those same people are saying, yeah, but they scored a goal from a corner kick, which should have been a goal kick. Why didn't VAR intervene? So football hasn't really decided how it wants to use technology, and football almost contradicts itself. And this reflects a view of refereeing where coaches and everybody say, well, we want referees to be consistent, but we want them to use common sense. And you can't have the two. Consistent means a particular foul is a yellow card in every game and every moment and every minute of every game. Common sense is, well, it's been a lovely game, there's been no yellow cards, you've got a yellow card foul in the last minute, but we don't need it because the game doesn't need it. And the consistency versus common sense argument is a little bit the same with VAR. Some don't want much VAR intervention, some want it for everything. You know, some want second yellow cards, some want, as I say, corner kicks to be checked, because if you get a go, and there was a game earlier this season in the EPL where Arsenal played Man United, and at half-time, the pundit spent 3 minutes analysing whether the corner from which I think Arsenal scored should have been a corner or not. Did it get a deflection or not? So is that what football wants? Because in the end, we respond to what football wants. At the moment, we're getting mixed signals. But the general view, I think, for VAR is we brought it in for clear and obvious errors in match-changing incidents, which are direct red cards, goals and penalties. Nobody writes the headline, Soweto Derby decided by wrong corner kick, or Pirates cheated by throw-in. So we should keep it for the big decisions where teams can't recover if the referee makes a mistake. If the referee makes a mistake by giving a corner, which is a goal kick, the team can still stop that corner becoming a goal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Nothing is a given. Nothing is obvious. Well, clear or obvious, whichever way it is. David Elleray, my guest here tonight. We're going to take your calls. I see a lot of your voice notes that are coming through. Do send them through. Any questions? As I say, we learn, and we've got the right man right here in studio.
Marawa Sports Worldwide Live. #MSW on 947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live. #MSW.
If you want to make real money, you've got to start your own business.
The thing is, you need a stable profession. Doctor, lawyer, accountant.
You won't get anywhere without a post-grad.
Career in tech is the way
Welcome to the family business. It just makes sense.
At Investec, we won't tell you how to make your money, but we will help you make the most of it. If you earn over 800,000 Rand per annum, you could qualify to bank with us. We'll even take care of the admin when you switch your account. Now that's private banking. Investec is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Did you hear that? That's the sound of lights being switched off to reduce the impact of load shedding. Eskom is encouraging you to use less electricity at all times by switching off electrical appliances and lights that are not in use. Cell phone chargers, TVs, and decoders still use electricity if they're not switched off at the socket. You see, if we all switch off what is not in use, our combined effort could help reduce the impact of load shedding. Let's work together by switching off to reduce load shedding.
I like to sell it, but want a good price for it. Where can I sell it? I'd like to sell it. I'd like to sell it. I'd like to...
Whoa. You want to sell your car?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
Well, because we'd like to buy it. 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 You want to sell it? We want to buy it. We buy cars. The best way to sell your car by far.
Put your feet up and let Checker 6060 deliver everything you need this summer.
The pool's a bit green, we've got the chlorine. Let's go 6060. Fresh summer fruit, we'll get en route. Let's go 6060. Decorations and celebration. Let's go 6060. Days are sunny, we'll save you money. Let's go 6060.
Save yourself an hour. Get Checkers deals delivered in 60 minutes.
Let's go 6060.
Connect your home to super fast, uncapped internet from Supersonic from just 349 Rand per month. That's all the movies, games, series binges, and downloads you could want. Sign up with Supersonic Fiber from just 349 Rand per month, and we'll throw in a free-to-use router, free delivery, and free installation. For real, it's from just 349 Rand per month. Check your coverage and sign up today at supersonic.co.za. T's and C's apply.
There's nothing better than a good night's sleep. Visit Hirsch's, the bed specialist, for unbelievable deals on a wide range of beds this Black November. Shop quality brands like Simmons, Rest Assured, Cloud9 and more. Save 3,000 Rand when you buy a Rest Assured Queen base set for only 4,999, or 3,500 Rand when you buy a Simmons Classic Queen base set for only 12,499. Hirsch's, we will save you money.
Previously on Marawa Sports Worldwide.
You either win with us or you watch us win.
You know, when you get a message that comes from one of the Sundowns former players, a great legend of the game, he says, well done, AFL champions, Mambush Daniel Mudzao. Hey? Legend of the game.
Yeah.
Hey? You were playing, hey, when he was playing, you were still playing. Ooh.
No, I'm just a young man. Forget the age.
No, I'm not worried about age. I'm just inspired by you.
He's a very young, 38-year-old.
Yeah.
Just starting the career.
God did.
#MSW. #MSW.
Good evening, Mr. Marawa, and good evening to your guest, former referee, Mr. David Elleray. My only question to the former referee, Mr. Marawa, is that since we all know that in Europe, all their leagues are using VAR, but there is still that cry from some people who still believe that VAR is not doing any justice in terms of decision making. So are there any plans from their side to maybe implement something like goal line technology, whereby you won't have to run to that panel of VAR during the game to ask for a review? Thank you, Mr. Marawa. Good show.
Swaledi, thank you so much indeed. My guest tonight, David Elleray, is here. Pretty much in the heartbeat of what happens in the world of refereeing. He is Technical Director at the International Football Association Board, IFAB, and he is here live with us in studio. Maybe just bits and pieces of that voice note. My complaint to you before the show was, why aren't referees utilizing that pit side monitor? I don't know what the technical term is for it, but they do the listening of what is being told to them via the earpiece, and then they implement whatever the suggestion is, if it is something that requires that. So he talks about goal line technology, which might be completely different. And goal line technology, as far as I know how it works, is has it crossed over the line? There's a little beep or buzz on your wrist from the watch that you're wearing, or the technology that's given there. What for you do you make is the more reliable? And aren't the referees utilizing pit side? Are they deliberating a little bit more? Maybe just break it down in all its confusion.
Yeah, I think what we have to understand is in football there are two types of decisions. They're the factual and the subjective, a little bit like cricket. So cricket technology works well, a run out, a stumping. Tennis uses technology well because the ball is either in or out. Yes. There's no debate. So goal line technology is a factual decision. FIFA are working very hard on offside technology, semi-automated offside technology. But if you look at offside, which in a way reflects the whole of football decision-making, there are two parts to offside. Are you in an offside position, which is factual, and are you then committing an offence in that position, getting in the way of the view of the goalkeeper? So we can use technology for the factual decisions, and we could extend goal line technology to the whole goal line. Yes. We could have touchline technology. We could have offside position technology. But then, was that handball or not, or was that foul a red or yellow card, is not subject to factual technology. It's somebody's opinion. And so what happens with the VAR is that when referees give decisions now, they tell the VAR what they've given. So for me, no penalty, the arm was in a natural position. The VAR looks at the replay, and if what the referee has described is what the replay is showing, normally that's what's called check complete, we carry on. But if the replay is showing something very different, that's when the conversation starts. So I will say, for me, that was a yellow card because the foul was a foot-on-foot foul. If the replay shows, in fact, it was foot on knee, then the VAR would say, no, the contact was above the ankle, it's moving now into a red card situation. That's when they use the monitor. So they don't use the monitor for factual, but for subjective, they need to. And what a lot of people don't want is somebody in a remote studio with no feel of the atmosphere making two, as you said earlier, forensic or clinical decision. Because the referee has the feel. The referee also knows what's going on. So you and I are playing. I'd foul you and you say to me, David, I'm going to get you the next challenge. And the referee hears that and you then take me out and it's 50-50 red or yellow card. The referee has heard what you've said to me. So they've got more information than the VAR. So the real purpose and where VAR is working best in the world is where there's what we call a high level of intervention, when the decision is 70, 80, 90% wrong. Not 65% wrong, not 55% wrong when it's subjective, but when it's very clearly wrong. And that's why we talk about it being a clear and obvious error, because we don't want the game re-refereed by somebody in a effectively a television studio somewhere, and the players
somewhere
say,
away from the stadium,
Yeah.
which is what people don't understand, is that they're not physically there.
there, so they don't
Yeah.
feel it. And people are saying, if Michael Oliver is refereeing our game today, we want Michael Oliver making the biggest decisions. We don't want somebody anonymous 150 miles away down near Heathrow Airport making a decision in a slightly artificial antiseptic environment. So that's where the VAR never makes a decision, contrary to what people think. The referee always makes the decision. But in the same way the assistant referees help the referee, the VAR is called a video assistant referee, not a video referee, because they're there to assist the referee. And we need to keep the referee as the strong on-field decision maker who is helped by the parachute, if you like, of the VAR. If they make a clear error, a really serious error, that's when it needs to come in. And that's where VAR works best.
Was the ball over the line? Was all of the ball over all of the line? So all of these things.
Yeah, but that's factual.
That is
That's
factual.
yeah.
And we saw that. And that is why, certain coaches were up in arms. And we understand that because now when we given, as you said, the freeze frame, the still, we see the ball over, but we don't know because there is no proper angle that shows was all of the ball over all of the line.
That's right.
And then you start to say, but are these optical illusions or what's going on in the world of football? How then do we try and minimize, David, something like we've seen in the past 2 weeks?
Well, I think there are several things. I mean, you were talking obviously about the Arsenal-Newcastle game where there was the one goal and there were three possible things wrong with that goal. Did the ball go out of play? Was there a foul? And was there offside? If you looked at the comments of most of the main commentators and pundits, they were 50-50.
Yeah.
So the starting point is the referee is right unless there is clear evidence that he is wrong or she is wrong. A bit like when you go to court, you're presumed innocent unless there's clear evidence you're guilty. So if there's no angle that says the ball was out of play, then the on-field decision, which said it didn't go out of play, stays. If there's no clear evidence that there was a push, a clear push, the on-field decision stays. And this is the crucial thing about VAR. And when we wrote the VAR protocol, I took cricket, where cricket has umpire's call, as you know.
Yes.
It's either hitting the wicket, it's missing the wicket, or it's umpire's call. And in a way, we've taken that philosophy into VAR in the same way with rugby union. The referee used to say to the TMO, is there any reason for me not to give this try? And that was looking for reasons, and they didn't like it, so they changed. And it changed the referee saying to the TMO, I'm giving this try, and basically challenging the VAR to say, can you find any evidence to say I'm wrong? Because if you can't, my decision is preeminent.
Isn't that the beauty, though, David? I think you've just hit it on the head. That conversation is what I believe we are missing. I know you were part of a trial of something similar. It went a certain direction, but it's many years down the line now. And for me, that is the conversation that I believe is missing. I know they tried something with the Women's World Cup, where now the referee, after having gone and consulted, comes through and there's an open microphone and tells the audience, which kind of looked a little bit forced. And people are they listening in the audience, but your bigger audience are the people at home. And those very same conversations, we saw them in France with the Rugby World Cup, steadily, gently, through and through, meticulous, but very straightforward. And I think something similar would have happened in that Newcastle-Arsenal game to say, from where I am, I think the ball looks to be over. And then they can say, oh, but we must be listening. We must be, I don't know what your take is, but my belief is that we should just be those guys who are the eyes and the ears, listening and following and learning.
I think this is something which may in time come, but what we have to remember is that we've gone from nothing to a lot with VAR. When I oversaw the first VAR match in the USA in August 2016, less than 2 years later, it was being used in the World Cup final because it works, basically. Not perfectly, but nothing in football works perfectly. One of the things we didn't do enough of is educate people. And I think if people understood the process, and we've got to get better at understanding the process, but at the moment, there is so much pressure on the VAR. So Nicola Rizzoli from Italy, who refereed the World Cup final in Brazil, said to me after his first match as a VAR, he was more exhausted than when you referee the World Cup final. Because it's a little bit like you've got your own children, you take them out and you're a bit casual with them. You take somebody else's children out and you're panicking all the time in case something goes wrong. The VAR doesn't want to let the referee down. So at the moment, we need to help the referees develop clever, precise, professional conversations. And one of the things that rugby has done, and I think football is moving towards, rugby has professional TMOs. At the moment, most of the VARs are also referees. So in the EPL, they can be a referee one week, a VAR the next week. I think in the coming years, and it's starting already with FIFA, we'll develop a panel of professional VARs who will be much more focused, much more able to communicate clearly and precisely. But in a stress situation, people don't necessarily say the right things and people get confused. And there's also a risk that football would manipulate it. So the VAR says, Robert, I want you to look at this one because for me that's a handball for a penalty. You go and look at it and say, for me that's not a penalty. What's the coach going to say? One coach can say, well, the VAR thought it was a penalty, but Robert, the referee, was too arrogant to give the penalty. He wouldn't listen to the VAR. So hearing the conversation isn't necessarily going to make people happier with what goes on. But I think it's something that will come. You were slightly dismissive of the announcement. I think this is going down pretty well, particularly in the stadium, because one of the things is people at a match are not getting as much knowledge as people watching on TV.
Was he still not allowed the replay?
Because the replays aren't always there because it can cause crowd problems.
Correct.
But with the referee coming back and saying, having viewed the replay footage, there was a foul by Chiefs number 5 on Sundowns number 7, penalty kick, explains to people what's going on in the stadium.
But isn't that where TMO's winning? Is because where football's not showing that for the crowd problem possibilities is that rugby is showing it very transparently. So as they have that conversation, both the referees, they're looking at the big screen and say, just put it up on the big screen. And they're almost in unison with the people at home and at the stadium coming to a conclusion.
Yeah, but let's be honest, the behaviour of the players, the coaches and the spectators at a rugby match is very different. Sure. And you put a replay on the screen, the players will be pressurising the referee. The coaches will be going crazy. So can you imagine a big EPL game and there's a 50-50 penalty and the two coaches are seeing it? They'll both see it through their own understandable view. So will the spectators. So in terms of behaviour, actually showing the replay at the time doesn't really work. We even saw it in the Women's World Cup 4 years ago in France where an offside was shown and suddenly some of the players stopped and started pointing at the replay. So we have to accept that at the moment, the way rugby conducts itself is a different level from the way football conducts itself.
I know I'm running out of time. You had mentioned cricket. I wanted to use a cricket example. We saw recently Angela Matthews becoming the first batter to get timed out at international cricket level. I see a voice note also alluding to the same thing about cricket player being sent off for time wasting. What I wanted to say, and we've got all of 30 seconds, unfortunately, David, is South Africa wants VAR. A large portion say they want VAR. What I've been saying is that South Africans don't have professional referees right now. So is it not jumping the gun to have what we call amateur referees, and then you have a system like VAR there before we get to the professionalization of referees?
I think VAR could help a great deal in South Africa. A lot of your disputes, for example, about offside, which is a factual decision. And I think that you don't need to have full-time referees to make good use of VAR. I think VAR would help train the referees. I think it would also give greater confidence in some of the decision-making, and I think it would be a major step forward. You're one of the best leagues in Africa.
Correct.
You should have VAR, and that will enhance. And VAR takes away all sorts of issues because people understand the referees look to the replay is given a penalty. The decisions are accepted much more. The behaviour's much better. It would enhance the game here to have VAR, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I hope it won't be during a load shedding period, either at the VAR room at the stadium. David Elleray, I know you and I can go on. I love the fact that so many people wanted to be involved, but we'll bring you back soon because these are very important conversations. Like you're saying, there are a couple of law changes that are in the pipeline, and let's chat about that. I know you're in the country now, which makes me happier. So let's utilize the information that you do have. But thank you so much indeed for gracing us with your presence today. Highly appreciated.
Thank you, Robert. Really enjoyed talking to you as always. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Technical Director at the International Football Association Board, IFAB. That's our studio guest tonight, David Elleray.
#MSW live now on 947 Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live at the same time. #MSW.